Good morning. Welcome to Shields and Arrows, where we defend the faith, the family, and the fellowship. I am Pastor Mark Baze. I'm very thankful that you have taken the time to join us, and that probably means that you're at least somewhat interested in what this ministry is about. You're probably somebody who does believe the Bible is the Word of God. If not, then we'll try to persuade you. And you are probably also somebody who at least holds to some conservative values, and that's what we're trying to do. And so thank you all for being here with us today. We're going to talk a little bit about the Supreme Court decision, or at least the hearing, the oral arguments that are going to take place today at the Supreme Court regarding the Tennessee transgender bill, or not bill, actually, hold on. The ruling that was made on a lower court decision that has now been taken up to the Supreme Court. We'll talk about some of that in detail as I get some of that pulled up for you. And then we will also be discussing a little bit about this idea of an aging demographic trying to cheat death. Kind of a morbid discussion today, but I think it's important because where we're headed today in our culture, in our community, it makes for an interesting time. And we may be, on this show, looking further down the road to where we may be discussing some issues that are going to be very relevant in due time, okay? So I'm not a prophet nor the son of a prophet, just trying to use good judgment and trying to discern the times. All right, so with that, we've got all of our people on today. As I'm checking, I saw somebody that you want me to give a message to Dr. White. I've got Scott on here, and he says that I need to tell him that he's running his sound at about half the normal level. He better turn it up, right? I'll tell him that he needs to bump that sound level up, all right? I'll send him a message. I'll relay the information, okay? All right, so here is the, this is the live discussion going on right now, but I want to get to just the overall bigger picture to give you the full, or at least a decent understanding of the story. And let me see, I want to find the link for you. I didn't quite have time to get the link pulled up prior to the starting of the show, but I did want to get it pulled up for you. Let me do this. Let's see if we can get a decent overall look at this thing. All right, so here's from AP News. They're going to be, kind of leftist on their handling of it. But here's the overall picture. Transgender rights case lands at the Supreme Court. This is their title, amid debate over ban on medical treatment for minors. So what the case is the Tennessee court ruled that you cannot perform unalterable or irreversible gender affirming care, basically meaning like you cannot perform a mastectomy on a young lady, for example. You cannot obviously remove what's the term I'm using for my 3-year-old son? Parts that make you a boy from young boys that are confused and think they're girls. You cannot do that because those are irreversible. You can't take it back. You cannot change it. And so the Tennessee courts ruled absolutely not. You cannot do that to children. That's child abuse, which any common person would agree. And now this has been taken to the Supreme Court, where they're having oral discussion today. So the Supreme Court is hearing arguments Wednesday in just its second major transgender rights case, which is challenging a Tennessee law that bans gender-affirming care for minors. By gender-affirming care, what they mean is, mutilating children, castrating young boys and girls. And the justice's decision, it's not really expected for a few months, but it's going to impact a number of different laws across 25 states, according to the article, as well as it also is going to probably impact issues of boys competing in girls' sports and things like that. It can have some reaching effects, depending on how the wording is used in the case, which obviously we would agree with protecting our young girls not from getting getting injured, right? Having to compete against boys, because boys are bigger, stronger, faster than girls. So with that, we're going to be hearing oral arguments today. There's going to be several different groups. I know for one of the pro child mutilation, what they call gender affirming care lawyers going to be involved is actually a woman who says that she's a man, and that'll be interesting to see how all that plays out. We'll have more report on it tomorrow, how the oral arguments went, and so just stay updated. It's not that I really have anything for you. Just know that's what's going on today. The Supreme Court is hearing arguments, discussion on this matter of a transgender bill that was upheld by the Tennessee court and then appealed all the way up to the Supreme Court regarding the transgender surgeries that are being performed. It's amazing because originally these hospitals claimed in Tennessee that they weren't being performed. We're not doing this. We're not performing these kind of surgeries on young children. We're not doing it on minors. It's only for adults. And which is interesting because if that's the case, why would they be fighting so hard against banning those surgeries in the law on minors? If you already weren't doing it, why are you fighting against the law so hardly? So hard, I guess that's what you would say. And so then eventually it did come out. This has been over the course of like the past year and a half or so. But it did come out that no, they are in fact carrying out these operations on children. And so the truth is, this is all a massive money-making scheme, like all these things are in life. Just understand that the hospitals want to make money, and surgeries are the money makers, right? Think about hospitals that make a lot of money, the hospitals that are wealthy. It's not your local general hospital that cares for sick people when they need some IVs and maybe some immediate medication that they just can't go to Walgreens and get, right? Those hospitals are barely getting by. Those hospitals have doctors who perform the most basic of procedures, maybe assist, and that's about it. Those are not your money-making hospitals. Those are not the ones that are wealthy and have all the nice facilities. It's the hospitals that perform surgeries. Well, guess what? Those transgender surgeries, gender-affirming care, which you and I know it's just child mutilation, those are major money makers. Those are cash cows. It's a huge industry. And not only the immediate surgeries themselves, but these children, because they are clearly trying to defy biology, they are having to stay on hormones and puberty blockers and all those things, which is a massive cash cow as well. I mean, families are going bankrupt, right? Trying to provide this care for their children, which is one reason why a number of left-wing lawmakers are trying to get the taxpayers to fund gender-affirming care. Once again, it's just absurd that gender-affirming care is telling the boy that he's a boy and the girl that she's a girl, not playing into their confusion. So just stay tuned. We're going to talk tomorrow. Well, no, tomorrow's Theology Thursday. So Friday, we'll talk about the oral arguments that kind of came out of this. I don't know. You would think we have a conservative Supreme Court. Surely to goodness, they're going to uphold the Tennessee law and the Tennessee court ruling. I don't know. Some of those carryovers from previous appointments have not proven to be the most conservative, most rock-ribbed. Not all of them were Clarence Thomas, unfortunately. So we'll see how all of that plays out. Okay, now, with that, I've got to advertise our Bible conference that we're going to be doing in the spring. It's going to be the last week of March. I'm going to announce it every day, people, because I want you to be there, all right? So many of you who have supported this ministry, whether that is financially helping me get the equipment, whether it's this computer, the microphone that you can hear me speaking into, the camera that I'm looking at, or the things that are off screen right here, the technology and hardware that I'm using that you don't ever really see. I want to be able to show you how thankful we are by you just coming out and supporting us by your presence. It's going to be a great time. It's going to be a 3-day Bible conference, Friday evening, all day Saturday, and then wrap it all up with a Sunday morning service. And so we're getting the word out. You're going to have plenty of time. There are a number of hotels. We'll probably get details, information out sooner as far as what all your options are. We have there's also an RV park that Rick stayed in. It's not the best in the world. Rick can testify to it, but if you want to be there, you can go to the RV park. If for some reason you need some other hookup resources or space, let us know. We can be flexible. The church parking lot's kind of big, so we'll talk about that. But there's also a number of hotels in the area. Durant has Holiday Inn, La Quinta, things like that, things that I would stay in if I was traveling because I can't afford the fancy stuff. And so you'll have a number of options, okay? Furthermore, we've already talked about this, that if you are wanting to maybe not stay in a hotel and you're not an RV kind of person, let us know. We may be able to put you up somewhere, right? Have a spare bedroom in some houses, members of the church, but we would love for you to be able to make it out. The great thing about Oklahoma is it's kind of in the middle of everybody, right? If you're on the East Coast, 12 to 15 hours maybe, and you can be there. If you are more West Coast, depends on where you're at, but maybe a little bit longer. But we're kind of in the middle of everybody. And not only that, but we've got some people that are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We've got people that are in western Oklahoma. Would love to see them out, like Toby and Chuck. Would be great to have those guys get to make it out. Those fine gentlemen, right dividers out there in western Oklahoma. And then we have some people who are maybe even like the Missouri region. We know we have some northerners that are good friends of ours. So we'd love to have you out. It's going to be a great time. We're going to be discussing the major mistakes made in biblical interpretation. And it's going to be a topic that I think is going to be accessible to all people, whether you are a new Bible student, you're just now starting to really take Bible study seriously, or even if you are somebody with years of experience and you are studying the depths of doctrine and theology. I think it's going to be something that you're all going to find very beneficial. So be getting it on your mind, all right? Clear out the schedule for that last weekend of March. And it's going to be in Blue, Oklahoma, all right? Right there by Durant. And so it's going to be great. I think the church wants to feed you at least a few times. So some of your meals are going to be provided. And then there's always plenty of stuff to go find to eat in Durant as well. So if you would like to contact me, go to markbazeministries.org, markbazeministries.org, and reach out to me through email. And if you have any questions, I already had a question or a couple questions come in. I know Luis, she's reached out to me. Luis, I need to respond to your emails. I do apologize about that, but I have got them. I am seeing them. And so really, really thankful. She also said in her email that she just prefers the clean-shaven look, okay? So the beard and the mustache are not her favorite. One day, clean-shaven Mark Baze will return, I promise. Okay, that cuts it for our break, right? And so let's get back to our regular scheduled programming here at Shields and Arrows. Okay. Now that we've discussed matters of politics, we're going to wait and see how everything plays out around the world. I want to discuss, I think, what is going to be very relevant for us in the years to come. And maybe even less than that, right? I think it's going on right now. What is society going to look like? So yesterday we did the thought experiment of what would happen if progressive Christianity wins. I hope that's not the case, but unfortunately today, I think this topic actually is the case. Like, this is what's happening. What is society going to look like as this aging demographic reaches the twilight years of their life? And the truth is, we are an aging demographic. Let's just see if we can do a quick, a quick search and see what the demographic is. So let's see what the age demographic is. So currently, as it stands right now, here's the age structure. Under 18 years of age in the United States, this is, trying to figure out what the date of this is. As of, I think maybe this was 2020 when we had our census. So somewhat recent. Here's the age structure. Under 18 years of age, 22.2%. Okay, 22.2%. Ages 18 to 44, 35.9%. So this is as of 2021. 45 to 64 is 25.2%. 45 to 64 is 25.2%. And then 65 and over is 18.5%. That is interesting. So we have a quite a large number of people who are over the age of 45. And it's quite a large number, even if like you consider, let's just say like the age of 60 and up. That's quite a large number. It's a very interesting thing if you look at the chart here. So here is a chart of the U.S. population as of December 2023. All right. So blue represents male, red is female. Here's the chart here, okay? And what you'll find is it's kind of a straight line well into the 60s. And then obviously you start to taper off as you get, this is 100 years of age right here. But look at like our average life expectancy. Average life expectancy is not quite 80 anymore. It's dropped down to somewhere in here. That is a very heavily older demographic. Okay. What's amazing is if you would think about families, traditionally families are going to have, like let's say that you have a mother and father who are 30 years old. Once upon a time, let's just say 4 or 5 kids. So if that was the average, you should expect to see more children than people in their 30s to, well, even beyond that. The children should be the broader line, right? You would expect to see this down here being much wider because you're having, you're doubling the number of children, right? Now, obviously it wouldn't be double because things happen, children may pass, not every 20, 30-year-old has a child, but you would expect to see that the largest portion of this to be the base. But that's not what's happening in the United States. Okay? It is narrower here. And honestly, it's narrower here than almost even into our life, if you look up here, our life expectancy is still narrower. But with that being said, we have an aging demographic. That is the point of what we're trying to say here. Our birth rate is not in the positive. So we have more people dying than we have people being, well, our birth rate is slightly going, or our growth rate is slightly going up, but I'm not sure about that because I think it's probably more so due to immigration. But the birth rate is certainly going down from what it once was. The birth rate is in decline. We're at 10.1 births per 100,000, or no, per 1,000 in the population. And it's at a decreasing rate. It's at a decreasing rate from what it once was. So while it's kind of like inflation. Inflation's always growing, but it's not growing at the same rate. And that's problematic. At some point, it's going to bottom out. So with that, looking at looking at the data, looking at the demographics, this leads us to a question. We have more older people now than we have ever had, as far as in our country, in our communities, in our society. That's not inherently problematic if we're having enough children. We're not having enough children right now. But there's also another factor that needs to be considered. Not only do we have an aging population, but we have an increasingly secular population. What I'm meaning is those older people are not as religious as they once were. Okay? Let's just look at let's just see if we can find a chart of demographics, what the trends are. And obviously, we can take this to a degree with a grain of salt, but we're just going to say it's roughly somewhat accurate. Okay, give or take a little bit. So here's our graph right here. This is from the PRRI, Census of American Religion. We're just going to say that maybe they're somewhat close. So we have trying to see what our demographics are here. Percentage of population. Not finding a good graph. I mean, all the graphs are showing that our religious affiliation is in decline. Here's a pie chart. So here's the religious landscape right now for the United States. We have the blue over here, various shades representing Protestant affiliation, Catholic affiliation, some kind of Christian-related affiliation. Then over here in the green, these are going to be like other ethnicities, but still related to Protestant, Catholic affiliation. Orange over here is going to be your other religions, Jewish, Muslim, Buddhist, things like that. But then look at obviously if you consider here, all this is Christian affiliation, sure. But then look at how many are just religiously unaffiliated, 26.8%. That's going to be a massive change from what things used to be. And I'm wanting to find a line. I'm hoping for a simple line graph that just shows this. So here is a Here we go. Here's a good one. This is from Pew Research. Once again, we're just taking it kind of with a grain of salt, give it a plus or minus, however much. But back in 1972, religious affiliation, Christianity dropping. Okay? Religiously unaffiliated. Look at this climb here. Okay, up to 29%. So, long story short, what we're seeing is we have a demographic that is aging, but at the same time, we are seeing a rise in a lack of religious affiliation. Okay? I wonder what the baby boomer generation looks like. What are the data? What's the baby boomer generation? Because that could say, if we're looking at religious affiliation graphs, it could be that all the younger people are, saying they're atheists, secularists. That could be like the millennials, like my generation. But I wonder, if the baby boomers are trending religiously unaffiliated. So the baby boomers seem to be decently religious still, according to these statistics on Pew Research. Some 70%. But there's a lot of people who say, that they are highly religious, and yet they're not, they haven't cracked open their Bible or went to church in a good while. So maybe their engagement's down. Now that I've set the stage, that whole matter of looking at charts and everything was just to set the premise, the question that I want to ask. What is society going to look like as the demographics continue to age? As people get into their late 50s, 60s, and then 70s, 80s, and then everything you get after that is just kind of a bonus, right? Well, really anything after 79 is a bonus. What is our culture and society going to look like as people reach those latter years of their life? I think that we already see this. There is an obsession with trying to cheat death in our society. There is kind of a trend going on amongst people like my age and younger. We joke about how everybody looked so old back in the day, okay? You can find this on, internet and whatnot. You just, all you got to do is look, why did people look older in the past? So here was my Google search. I typed in, why did people look? And then it filled in the rest. And the number one is, why did people look older in the past? That's a thing that's often said. People looked older in the past. So you take a 30-year-old in 1965, okay? 30 years old in 1965. And now compare them to 30-year-olds today. Okay, I'm 29, all right? I'm 29 years old in 2024, and you compare that to how a 30-year-old looked back then. And they will say that, wow, the 30-year-olds look so much older. Is that really the case? There could be some factors. For example, in 1965, a 30-year-old was probably smoking a lot of cigarettes, okay? I've never smoked a cigarette. As Dr. White says, don't smoke, don't chew, don't go with girls that do. There's a number of other things. Maybe, I don't know. You could maybe argue skincare, for example. Maybe you think sunscreen is useful. Maybe you're somebody who thinks that it's maybe not as beneficial for us, rubbing chemicals all over our skin. But regardless, right? People maybe are not utilizing all the different resources that we have today. Maybe the level of work that people have to do now is not as demanding as what the work that people had to do back then. People had to be out in the sunlight a lot more. Maybe that's all true. Maybe also just taking a picture with a less quality camera and it being a little bit more grainy and the color being a little more off, or maybe being in black and white just gives you in your mind the idea that people looked older. But I say this, there is I think probably a largely false perception amongst younger people. And I would even argue maybe, when I say younger, let's just say younger generations compared to those in the past. So this could apply to maybe even the baby boomers, okay? That we are going to be the generation that they won't necessarily say that we'll, figure out, the fountain of youth and live forever. But we'll be the generation that figures out how to remain younger longer. And you can see that. I think you can see that attitude amongst our society. I'm 29, and I can recall going to church as a young boy. I'm talking, 4 years old, maybe even a little younger than that. My memory stretches back a decent ways. There have been those nice church ladies who have been, and I mean this with all the love in the world, the nice older church ladies my entire life. Okay? They've been the nice older church ladies all my life. And I've been on this earth for nearly 3 decades. Were they really that matured and experienced when I was a young man? Like, let's just take a lady that is, let's say she's 75 years old now and I was a 5-year-old. Let's make the math easy. When I was 5 years old and she was 75 now, she'd have been 55 years old. Nowadays, 55 years old, I don't say a 55-year-old as being a nice old church lady. I've got ladies that are that age that are in my Sunday school class, right? I don't teach the older women's class. I teach the Sunday school class, for different people. And yet in my mind, she seemed older. That's probably partly because I was a young man, or I was a young boy, and just when you're a child, high schoolers look like they're grown-ups. But let's think about this. Let's really think about this. How do women today, women that are 55 years old, how do they dress now compared to women that were 55 years old back in 1999? Think about their hairstyles, maybe the jewelry that they wear. Women back in those days wore dresses to church, dresses to work. A number of my teachers growing up, they would wear nice dresses, or at least they would wear women's slacks or whatever you would call them for women, and a nice blouse or whatever that they wear. They dressed like a woman of their age. If you look at women now, okay, the 55-year-old woman is wearing the exact same clothes as the 25-year-old. We are seeing 55-year-old women walking around with ripped up jeans and they're wearing the tops that 25-year-old women wear. And not only that, but used to, it seemed like as women got older, they would cut their hair shorter. They just wouldn't have the long hair going down well past their shoulders, shoulder blades, things like that. You know, they would have a classic look. And yet now we're seeing women with like 55-year-old women with longer hair, and it looks the exact same, like their hairstyle looks the exact same as a woman in her 20s. You can tell that there is kind of a resistance to embracing your time and your season, right? What age you're at. Now, let's think about this in a natural way, okay? Because I don't know, I'm maybe about to make some of you frustrated with me. The problem with being a younger person trying to talk about these things. Let's take a man that is 60 years old, or it could be a woman in her 60s, doesn't matter. But let's just say, for the example, a man is 60 years old. And this man who is 60 years old wants to be healthy. He eats good food, and he exercises 3 days a week. Let's say he tries to stay well-groomed. He makes sure that he's clean-shaven, or at least has a good trimmed beard or facial hair, whatever have you, and all the other, trims all the other places that men can, seem to get some profuse hair, right? Ears and whatnot. He tries to keep himself looking sharp. He wears clothes that fit him, and he likes to exercise and take care of himself. That is not, and like I said, the equivalent for a woman as well. That is not trying to cheat death. I think that is taking care of yourself. I think that is actually the natural progression. That is the natural course of life. What is unnatural, what is unhealthy, is wasting away. Saying, well, now I'm 60 years old. I'm just going to sit in my chair all day long. I'm not going to care how I look. I'm not going to try to stay healthy at all. I'm going to eat what I want, do what I want. I think that's the unnatural progression. That's why your health starts to fail. That's why your hormones get out of balance, for example. Being a healthy person is not a denial of your age or of the times. I actually believe that a person should be very physically capable much later into life than what we think. All right? I plan on, and I know it's easy to say these things, but I plan on exercising and lifting weights all of my life. Okay? I don't think that it's just a young man's game. All right? I've got a weight room in my barn, and I'm going to use that weight room in my barn for my entire life. That's my plan, that's my goal. So, and I apologize if you hear any background noise. I've got two boys running around the house. That's not cheating death. That's being healthy and taking care of yourself. What am I talking about? I'm talking about trying to be younger than what you are. And let me explain. You can do that at any age. I'm not saying that you do that as only if you're 65 and up. There are 29-year-olds today who are still going out on Friday nights and acting like they're in college. Going to, whether it's the parties, chasing girls, being irresponsible, you name it. A 29-year-old can still act like a 19-year-old. Or a 29-year-old can be responsible, have a job, have a wife, have children, take care of business. So you can act inappropriately for your age. The same way 12-year-old child can throw a hissy fit like a little toddler. There's a way to conduct yourself that is appropriate for your age. That's what we're talking about. Normally, this is a thing you grow out of. Eventually, the 12-year-old starts to mature. Eventually, the guy in his 20s begins to take on responsibility and act appropriately. And that's what is healthy and normal. But I think what we're seeing is there is a very real reality. Because we are in a time in which religious affiliation is down, people are not nearly as conscious, thinking about eternity, thinking about God, thinking about eternal life, thinking about what really matters. They are so focused on the material world, they are wanting to cling and hang on to their youth because they're getting their fulfillment and joy out of these worldly things, their worldly pleasure. It's going and seeing the sights, doing the things. Maybe it's your physical looks and your appearance. That's where you find your greatest fulfillment, your joy in life. It's not rejoicing in the Lord. It's not being involved with your children, and at that age, grandchildren, maybe going to church and having those deeper relationships with your family, because it's built not just upon material things or even just the fact that you're blood relatives, but a deeper relationship built upon the love of God, the love of His Word, worshiping the Lord, walking after the Spirit, things like that. You have an emptiness in your life. So what do you turn to? You turn to a symbol of a time in which you have all the time in the world, or so you think. And so you start seeing people trying to capture their youth. And they do that in a number of ways. They do it in the way that they dress. They try to dress the part of a younger person instead of just embracing it. Fashion obviously changes. What a person wore 50 years ago is somewhat different, obviously, than what people wear now. But you know it when you see it. You can look and you can say, you are dressing in a way that is for somebody of a younger age. You just know it when you see it. That is what I'm proposing to you is a symptom of a culture, an aging demographic that is distanced from really eternal things, seeking your mind on things above. I don't have that sermon up yet, but I'll get it up for you. But seeking those things which are above, set your affections on things that are above, and instead we're worried about things of the world. This is also manifest in a number of other ways. I saw some people already mention it, like the use of whether it's plastic surgery, Botox, things like that. People trying to hold on to that youthful appearance. We know the celebrities do it. Tom Cruise, he's probably the most famous movie star, and yet he's kind of the staple for this, right? The man hasn't aged. Like Tom Cruise, like you just look up Tom Cruise, looks the same, right? Here's Tom Cruise, when he's a young guy versus now, and I think he's like 60 years old now. When he was a younger guy to now. The fact is, he probably eats healthy, he probably takes care of himself, but he's probably also done a number of things, right, to keep himself looking young, because he's 60 years old, right? That's grandpa age. There's a number of things that the world is turning to. Another thing is hormones, right? So a lot of people are turning to chemicals, and they could be natural chemicals that occur in the body to help you stay younger. So it's an amazing thing. Men, it's being well documented that their testosterone levels are dropping. I think that's due to a number of things: inactivity, addictions to things that are not good for the chemical balances of your brain, right? Pornography, things like that. And their testosterone is dropping. Well, the solution is, at least the solution that is commonly being used now, is just, well, turning to supplemental, right? Replacement therapy. What if you take the man that's in his 50s and his testosterone's low, and you change his diet? You put him on a diet of beef, chicken, good vegetables, things like that. You get his diet, you get it cleaned up. Less trips to the fast food shop, less, less little snacks that he may eat out of a Little Debbie pack or whatever. And then you put him in the weight room. Or just have him going outside and maybe instead of buying his firewood, he chops his firewood. Make the man do things physical. Make the man take in protein and good solid food. What is going to happen to his testosterone? It's going to go up. Maybe address some of his activities, the things he engages in. Cut those out. His testosterone is going to go up. Maybe we don't have to turn to chemicals. Maybe we can fix these things on our own. I know women, you have more things to deal with as you age that occur within your body naturally, but I think the same would remain for you. Good diet, exercise, being healthy, and I think it would work wonders. That is not cheating death. That's not denying reality. That is embracing the fact that you're going to age, and that's okay. And you can be healthy your whole life. You can be healthy and try to be in the best shape you can be your whole life, and that's perfectly normal. Caleb was fighting as a soldier in his 80s, right? But what we're doing is we're saying, no, we're not going to embrace the stages of life. We're not going to accept them as they come, and instead we're going to fight it tooth and nail. We're going to change the way that we look. We're not going to embrace the gray hair. We're not going to embrace the lines and the wrinkles and maybe even the change in our demeanor, right? We're going to put ourselves on chemicals that keep us feeling young and things like that. But maybe those things are normal. Maybe those things are natural. Maybe it's healthy. Maybe it's beneficial for us. Now, don't get my message here thinking that you need to all start putting on your granny sweaters and rocking in your rocking chair. But I think it's all a symptom of the bigger problem. The desire to try to completely change our bodies and pretend like we're not whatever age we are. It's a symptom of a greater problem. The symptom is manifested in that way, but the problem is we've got to set our affection on things that are above and realize that there's a time and season for everything. I know it's easy maybe for me to say that now because I'm 29 and maybe considered like, yeah, this, of course, the 29-year-old saying, hey, quit worrying about it, you're fine, because he's 29. But I'll say this, I've even realized a few things. I've had to change up how I train. Like when I lift weights, I can't go in and do as many different activities because I'll get sore. I'll get hurt. My nervous system will get shot. The 21-year-old Mark could go in and work out for 3 hours. 29-year-old Mark, I'm way stronger than I was at 21. Make no mistake, I am stronger now than I was then. But I don't work out for 3 hours. I work out for 45 minutes, and I get it done and I get out. Things change. We have to adjust. We have to adapt. It's all a part of it. But I hope that our society, our demographics, we will get back to thinking about things eternal, and it'll help us put everything in the right perspective now and embracing the times. I'm 29. I can't go out on Friday nights with my buddies and just go bowling or to Buffalo Wild Wings or whatever I used to do when I was in college. I've got a wife, I've got children. If I want to get out and do anything, it can't be too far from the house. Excuse me. As I get older, I'm going to have to embrace those changes. It's just simply a part of life. There's a season, a time for all things. And we just need to take them as they come and do the best we can with what we've got. But I do hope that our society, as we move forward, is able to embrace it and not fight it, because I think it'll make for a pretty miserable society. Because the truth is, Tom Cruise may look pretty good for a 60-year-old man, but his time is coming, as is all of ours. You can only stave it off, right? You can't actually cheat it. 100% of the people that are born have died so far, with the exceptions that are one that are alive today. And the only way those don't die is if they're saved and the Lord returns and we're raptured. So I want you to take care of yourself. I want you to be healthy. I want you to be strong. I think every single one of you that are listening right now, whether you are 20 or 120, I think you should eat healthy and I think you should exercise. I think you should be self-sufficient. I want you to be able to take care of yourself. And I think you need to have nice clothes that fit you and look good. At the same time, you know what is becoming. You know what is appropriate. You know what is right. You know what looks good. So let's use good discerning judgment and realize that there's a time for every age. And every age has their own time, right? I want to read some of your comments here and see what you have to say. Robert says, when we boomers go, the next generation gets a huge windfall. Dr. Kitty says, I'm feeling really old right now. Stop it. You stop it. You've got too much work to do. Can't feel old. Nancy says, maybe Botox has been used abundantly. Yeah, it has been. Plastic surgeries as well. Robert says, am I trying to cheat old age? I prefer to look at it as making the most of where I am right now. I'm 78 and just finished a 20-minute plank routine. Before that, 25 push-ups. Yeah, no, and Robert, you actually embody everything I'm trying to say. This is what I want you to do. I don't know. I don't think I could do a 20-minute plank, honestly, Robert. I can do the push-ups just fine, but a 20-minute plank, that is, the number of people that can do that's extraordinary. So no, Robert, you are everything I'm wanting people to be. I have a feeling, Robert, that you are not walking around in skinny, ripped-up jeans and probably dress like a man of dignity, and that is appropriate. That's what I'm getting at. I don't know about if you've had any, Botox done or anything. Probably guessing not. But no, take care of yourself, absolutely. But just let whatever happens be the natural process of life, all right? And at the same time, we're going to be healthy and we're going to be strong. Nancy says, I'm 72 and I'm wearing clothes that you wore 20 years ago. Okay, but the thing is, Nancy, is you were probably dressing very appropriately 20 years ago as well, and your clothes look nice and they are respectable, and so they don't look out of place. I doubt that you're probably wearing a crop top when you were 20 years younger. And she also walks a mile several times a week. That's good. That's great. And you have dresses your mom wore 80 years ago, and you wear them for very special occasions. Yeah, so one of the interesting things is there are certain clothes that are timeless, that are going to be really in style no matter what. For example, I'm wearing an sports coat and a button-up shirt. This is something that has been in style for well over 100 years. And 100 years from now, you could still wear a sports coat and a button-up shirt, right? That's just the reality. There are certain clothes that are timeless, okay? But what a lot of people today are doing, like the older generations, they're just trying to be trendy, right? So they look at whatever the trend is. Like Dr. Campbell says, 50 years ago, it was hot pants and go-go boots. Hot pants? Okay. I don't know what those are. Maybe they're like hot pink or something. But what the older generations want to do is the older generations that are struggling with their age and wanting to cheat death, they're looking at whatever's popular, and they're trying to wear whatever the kids are wearing. They're looking at the college kids and saying, what are the college kids wearing? And they try to dress that way. Never wear a crop top and never wear shorts above my knees. That's right. So with that, it's not that I'm trying to, I haven't even been, I don't think I have been, speaking down about these people that are struggling with this. What I'm trying to say is, that's not even the main issue. I'm not even trying to say that their practices, their habits are the main issue. What I'm asking is, are those really the symptom of something deeper? And that's what I'm going back to. Remember the demographics that we were looking at, the charts, the stats. As our country goes, as our society goes, we're getting less religious. And as we're getting less religious, we are not setting our affections as much on things above. Therefore, that may be manifest in a number of ways. And one of those ways could simply be, we don't want to think about eternity. We don't want to think about eternal life. Maybe because we're not really sure. People haven't decided how they feel about God, or maybe they just don't like the topic. They don't like to think about theology and heaven and hell and things like that. And so they just kind of want to live in a state of, denial. But I hope that we can get our older generations to embrace those things, because there's a reason why the Bible talks about the wisdom of the elders. We need their wisdom because they have experience. They've lived on this earth longer than me. And I need to hear what they have to say because it's beneficial for us. Grandparents are supposed to be that source of wisdom to help us understand, to help us to learn, to help us to figure out life. But if they are trying to run from reality and not even accept the identity as a grandparent and would rather, be something else, doesn't play well for us, does it? In the generations to come. The older generations need to be pointing us to those things that are above, having our affections set on things that are eternal. And so hopefully, defending the faith, the family, and the fellowship, we can also defend seeking those things that are above and helping our generations, the older demographics, to embrace it. We want them to be strong, we want them to be healthy, but at the same time, we need them to embrace reality and see the world for as it is. So apparently hot pants are extremely short shorts. If I keep talking about this, my face will probably get red. But, there's a certain character on Dukes of Hazzard. Her name was Daisy. Maybe something along those lines. And that's all I've got to say about that. All right. Well, thank you all for joining me today as we discuss these matters and these topics. I know it's a little bit of a long-form discussion, but I appreciate it. Give me your thoughts. If you would like to tell me what you think about these matters, please send me an email, send me a message to let me know what you're thinking. If there's anything I could have said that I should have not left out. But thank you for joining us today here at Shields and Arrows. Tomorrow is Theology Thursday. I need your theology questions, okay? So with that, we'll see you tomorrow, okay? Thank you all very much.